Hello and welcome to Toolbox Talks on the Site Shed, and today we have a Q&A. If you have a question that you'd like us to answer, then head across to thesiteshed.com where you can leave a written or an audio question. Just if you want to skip the queue, quick heads up, we do reward loyalty. So if you've left us an iTunes review, then we do get to those ones first. Anyway, let's dive right in.
Giving tradies and contractors around the globe the tools to run a modern business. You're listening to Toolbox Talks from the Site Shed. Now here's your host, Matt Jones.
Hello and welcome back to Toolbox Talks. My name is Matt Jones, and today we have a Q&A from Dave from David Ferrari Constructions. Dave asked, Matt, could you please get somebody on the show who can help me address a problem that I'm having at the moment and constantly? And the question is, how can I go about charging for quotes? Now, I've asked Adrian from Train to Sell to come back on the show here and help us with answering this. Adrian, obviously, or if you missed it, he conducted a series with us called Selling with Confidence in the Site Shed, and it was a fantastic series. Go back and check it out if you missed it. Adrian, thanks for joining us back on the microphone.
My pleasure, Matt. Thanks again for having me.
Yeah, no worries. Adrian, so Dave is a client of mine. He's actually a mate as well. And he is a builder on the Northern Beaches. He specialises in largely renovations. So he's like a renovation expert, first floor additions, second story additions, bathrooms, kitchens, that kind of stuff. And he has very recently, especially, he's been put in the scenario where he's quoting so many jobs and it's taking up so much of his time. And he wants to start charging for it to justify the time he's spending, because a lot of those jobs aren't coming through, and he's just wasting time on it. He wants to know how he can start charging for that. Have you got any experience in that arena?
100%, Matt. Look, first of all, before I get into the actual fact of charging or not charging, I'd qualify the lead before I got to that decision whether or not to charge. There's an old IBM acronym, and it's really, really important. We kind of follow these things when we're doing the phone interview. It's called BANT, B-A-N-T, and it starts for budget, authority, need, and timing. Okay, and
BANT meant something else when I was growing up. I'm not even going to say it on air.
I'll just coast on past that one, Matt.
Yeah.
So yeah, look, BANT is really powerful. It's old school, but it works really, really well.
So what was it? It was budget?
Yeah, so B for budget, A for authority, N stands for need, and T stands for timing, okay? Yeah. So when you're kind of qualifying or talking to your prospect or your lead that someone's put you in contact with, you basically, you don't have to ask them in that exact order. You don't say, how much money you got to spend up front, but you might say, okay, great, when do you want to get this done? How many quotes have you had? A whole bunch of, qualifying questions. Do you definitely need a new bathroom, or are there other options that you might be able to take instead? Maybe they're going to just upgrade the taps and the toilet, and they're not going to go for the full bathroom renovation. And then basically, once you've got really clear and start to understand that they're going to be, and you need to practice this, because once you practice it, you'll start to see, okay, that person's, you'll get an insight through experience that this person's not going to buy for at least 12 months, or they're a tire kicker. You'll just start to be able to identify these opportunities much, much clearer. And then with building quotes, look, it's a little bit different to the beast that we were used to. I guess from a plumbing and a trade point of view, if it was a strata manager and they're an existing client, you'd never actually charge for the client as quote. If it was a general public client, similar to Dave in the construction space, I would say, look, there's going to be a cost for the quote. You can use my quote against the opposition if you really want to do it as a benchmark, and it's going to cost $150, $250. But if you accept it, I'll take that price off the actual final quote.
Yeah.
So therefore, you're positioning yourself as authority and expert, a really, really high-end person. Once you value your time, people will value your time as well. So I definitely would be qualifying them first before you even have that conversation. If you think they're going to buy, I probably wouldn't even charge for the quote, because you've kind of gone through the qualifying process and you start to get a feel for someone that's going to buy in a reasonable amount of time. If you think they're going to be a tire kicker, or they're actually not going to proceed, then I would say, look, It could be just like a governor, like I guess a way to see if they're serious or not serious. And if you say, look, it's going to cost $150 for a quote, I'm more than happy for you to show the opposition my quote if you want. You might not even say that. And then if you do proceed, I'll take that money, the cost of that quote, or $500, whatever you want to say the quote's worth, and take it off the actual end, the end cost of the entire job.
Yeah. I mean, one of the things, and I mentioned this to Dave the other day, when he's providing quotes, he's actually he's putting so much work in the space that he's, creating a full bill of quantities, and he's pretty much like, quantity surveying the job.
Yeah.
For the client. And so it might even be an instance in that scenario where if you've got to communicate to your customer the difference of, or comparing apples to apples, if somebody's providing you a quote, and if you're providing if Dave's providing a quote and he's up against someone else who's providing a quote, what's the difference in what they're going to receive?
Absolutely.
Dave's, he's providing a quote to build that project, but he's not just providing a quote. He's providing a full list of, bill of quantities, like hours they're going to have to put into it. Like it's a full breakdown. And so I would say to Dave in that instance, you are providing a quotation, but if you can find a way to sell to that customer what it is you're actually, the point of difference there, then they can, effectively, like you said, once they've got that information, it gives them a lot of leverage in the space of, okay, well, if I want to use you, I'll use you. And then maybe I could deduct the price of creating that quote off the proposal if you go ahead, or it also gives the customer something they can work with, because now they've got, I suppose, a bit of knowledge and they've got, I suppose, some ammunition in the space of, if I do want to get somebody else to quote this project, I know now what I need to be looking for in my quote.
Exactly. So I think it's like a scope of works, Matt.
Well, basically, yeah, exactly. Yeah,
there's definitely value in that, and people, the fair income buyers that would pay that money are going to be the kind of clients that you want anyway. So it's a really good. It's no different to plumbers and electricians using a service call, and the service call might fluctuate in price depending on how busy they are. So if Dave's flat out and he can't get there, of course, by all means, you might even say that it's cost $450 for a quote or whatever the case. I mean, you'd have to make sure it's within good parameters, but it makes a lot of sense.
So I suppose my advice to Dave in that scenario would be don't go out there selling, selling a quote per se. Maybe rebrand it. So
yes,
instead of saying I'm going to give you a quote, I would say, well, I'm going to give you like a project valuation, and it's going to include a full bill of quantities and all this kind of stuff. And for that service, this is how we do our proposals. This is how we quote. And for me to provide that service, it's going to cost $1,000 or whatever it is. However, if you do decide to go with us, we'll deduct that from the cost of the project. And of course, you're not obligated to. You can take that information and you can use that to help you get other quotes from other companies. But the bottom line is you're going to have a fully detailed list of things that you do need to account for when you are looking to price a job.
Yeah, it's so important that you distinguish your difference rather from your competition. And I'm more than happy to have a chat with Dave offline as well. But you would definitely come up with here's what a quote is. Here's what your, like you said, a project valuation is. This is the difference. This is what I provided at my company. This is the level of standard and of service that you'd get if you used us.
Yeah, and I would also. I mean, I was talking to Dave, about qualifying your customer, before you get to the selling point. And I think that would be a really good way for him to do that, because, they are flat out busy. Like, they're always just flat out busy. And he doesn't really want to be spending all this time in the office creating proposals and quotations to jobs that don't go anywhere. Yeah. And the reality of the scenario is the people that he's quoting probably are not his ideal customer, or either that, or he's not communicating correctly the value of what he's proposing. So my advice to Dave would be, in that scenario, really fine tune that process and get better at communicating what it is, what you do, and I suppose qualifying that lead to the point where they are a qualified, qualifying that customer to the point where they do become a qualified lead, and then you can sell to them. Because once they understand what it is that you're selling and they understand your point of difference, it'll make that decision-making process a lot easier and give it a lot more clarity.
100%. And we forget as tradies that we can say no. It's funny. We go, we've got to do everything for everybody. We become very, very obliging. Two things. You can start to say, well, obviously say no, or you could charge for it. Dave could possibly also partner up with a smaller business that probably would be happy to quote those and start to refer some of them down there. So you're not putting the customer out. You're going to refer them to someone that's probably better suited. But that only can happen once Dave knows exactly who he is and how to convey that message to the market of what his position is. Yeah.
And look, he does. I know in his defence, he does say no, and I think that's really a powerful point for him. Like, there's nothing more. I mean, in my experience, we say no to a lot of companies as well, and for various reasons. But I mean, I know it's quite an empowering, I suppose, thought or process when you can say to somebody, look, I don't think we're the right fit for you based off these reasons, and I think it certainly gives you a position of authority.
Yeah, look, I think there's, like I said, there's a few things. Definitely when you've got that referral partner. Because saying no can be a bit, I guess it's not in the spirit of wanting to help. So I think once you start to work out, look, I can't help you. I'm too busy. Right, you're not in the right space for me, which still can be also a bit confrontational. But I've got this referral partner. They're a smaller business, and then that way they're still getting their needs met, and they're probably going to be a more closer match between a smaller business and that potential kind of client that's kind of maybe tire kicking because your company might be charging more than the smaller companies.
Yeah, no, I agree with that. And so, sorry, I should have clarified that. When you're saying no to someone, you're not necessarily, shutting the door on them, but you're just saying, listen, in this instance, I don't think, you're not the right customer for our business based off these reasons. And I'll give you an example. Like, we get people come to us every day looking for, web projects, and it doesn't take long for me to ascertain if they're the right type of customer for us. Like, we know typically that our type of customers are people that have been down the path of having the cheap website. They've done it cheap. They've got it, done it themselves maybe, or they've got this cheap solution. But now they're looking at taking their business to the next level, and the product they've got is not going to get them there. So that's the type of customers that we tend to deal with. And when we get people come to us that aren't that type of customer, they're like, oh, we want the cheapest possible solution, then we don't help them because we can't, because the product that we've got is so much more in depth.
And you can't work this out until you've had experience. And I'm sure Dave's been around long enough to know who's right and wrong. He probably knows in a heartbeat, actually, who's right and wrong for his business. And it's just a matter of having, a conversation where he can, say no thanks and then move them on to the next.
Yeah. So, look, I think that's some good advice there from Dave. Hopefully Dave also thinks that's some good advice from him.
He'll be the judge.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. All right, mate. Thanks very much for joining us back on that call.
No worries at all, Matt.
I'll certainly put Dave in contact with you anyway, and you can have that conversation with him.
Thanks, mate.
Thank you. So if you haven't already, head across to thesiteshed.com and register for our Toolbox Talks, where you'll be regularly sent great episodes just like this straight to your inbox, so you'll never miss one. If you want to join the community, you can head across to thesiteshed.com/members, where for a small monthly fee, you'll get access to regularly updated training material, as well as access to our forum, where you can mingle and collaborate with trade-based business owners just like you from all over the world. If you're enjoying this podcast, please head across to iTunes and leave us a 5-star review. We greatly appreciate it, and it helps us spread the word and reach the masses. Likewise, if you know anyone that might benefit from the content we create, then please go ahead and share this with them.
You've been listening to Toolbox Talks by The Site Shed. For more great content just like this, head across to thesiteshed.com and join the amazing community of savvy trade-based business owners.